MPs on a parliamentary committee are investigating the RCMP's use of spyware capable of hacking into electronic devices. The technology can covertly intercept phone calls and messages and remotely turn on microphones and cameras and access other data. So far, the investigations have involved serious crimes, including terrorism, murder, and drug trafficking. The force has used this on-device technology to target 49 devices in 32 investigations since 2017. But federal privacy watchdogs are concerned they only learned of the spyware being used by the RCMP from the media.
I was surprised by the tool itself and how intrusive it is, and that it was used for so long.
RCMP Deputy Commissioner Brian Larkin testified before the House of Commons Privacy Committee. He's based in Ottawa, and I spoke with him earlier. Hi, Deputy Commissioner Larkin. Good to meet you and good to have you on our program.
Thanks so much. Happy to be with you this afternoon.
Before I sort of put some of the questions we've heard from politicians to you around the use of what we have been calling colloquially spyware, I just want to get from your perspective, if you can help us understand, what is the bar for using it, period?
Well, thanks. And, we like to refer to it as an on-device investigative technique, and it's really a tool that helps us actually investigate serious criminal investigations. And so it's really related to national security. There's a significant threshold within our organization before we would even consider seeking judicial authorization to lawfully intercept and to use this technique and tool. And it's really around the modernization of technology. Policing in Canada and the RCMP have been intercepting lawfully communications and interceptions for many different years, but most recently technology's evolved, and the advancements within our cyber world have really created this opportunity where policing needs to keep pace, and our organization provides national support across our country. And so the use of on-device investigative tools, commonly referred to as audits, is a key piece of our infrastructure, but it's at the highest level. It must meet an internal rigor, internal capacity before it even goes to the Crown's office, to a specialized Crown for review, and or to a judge to seek judicial order. So we have this significant rigor internally to ensure that we find that balance of traditional investigative techniques, such as physical surveillance, investigative interviewing, potentially the use of undercover operators. And so this is just one tool, part of a larger strategy, but it's got a significantly high threshold.
On that idea of rigor, I think I take your point on what you're saying. I think Canadians have questions about what exactly that means. So when you say that it has to meet a bar, it has to meet a certain level of rigor before it even goes towards a process for judicial authorization, what exactly does that mean in tangible terms?
Well, so internally, we have a whole process around this. And so, for example, a national security investigation or an investigation such as homicide or a significant drug trafficking or drug importation investigation, which could be going on for months, it could be going on for over a year, where investigators exhaust traditional techniques within policing. And they believe that, the use of an audit would help advance the investigation towards prosecution. And so the investigator would work within their unit, whether it be federal policing, contract policing. They would look at, all the different pieces. Does it meet the threshold? We have a whole guide that takes them through a series of steps to make sure that, is this actually going to work? There's a sign-off process. So at the mid-level, at the senior level, at the divisional level, and then this technology is managed centrally. And so it's managed out of specialized policing, out of technical operations. We have a specialized team, and we have a technical case management team that meets with the investigators, reviews the case, reviews the potential to see whether or not this technology and or seeking judicial authorization is the right approach, the proper approach, and will it be successful? And if it meets this internal rigor and capacity, then we would advance it and we would work a significant amount of time. This takes a long process. This isn't a 1 week process. This could be months in development, where we would then go and meet with a specialized Crown attorney who's trained trained specifically in Part 6 lawful interceptions, and then hence we would actually work with the Crown Attorney, develop the actual judicial authorization, and then seek, judicial approval. And so that could take it varies from case to case, but there's this whole process. And of course, the judge that authorizes it sets a time-limited, time sensitive, very specific on what we can use, what we can actually intercept. And then the fulsome process is that the individual that we're intercepting at the end of the judicial authorization is notified pursuant to the framework of the warrant that we receive lawfully.
So a couple of things that I think, and I appreciate that level of transparency, a couple of things that jumped out at me and questions we have been getting from Canadians as they watch MPs ask the force and ask you questions about the use of it. The first is the scope. Is there, some level of cognizance or awareness within the force about how rare this tool should be? Because, public disclosure from the force has changed. It evolved. It ended up being, we found out through these hearings, a little bit more used than initially reported by the RCMP. So there is kind of a question of trust there. And I'm wondering from your perspective, is there a level of awareness? We can't go bananas with this thing. It is very rare and it should be a last resort.
Yeah, absolutely. And, first, let me clarify the need for us to be transparent, the need to us enhance trust within policing, within our organization is paramount. It stems very much from the mandate that the commissioner is providing, specialized policing in the work that I lead. And so, yes, there's work to be done around enhancing that trust. And we understand Canadians' concerns. This is a new emerging technology. And likely 50 years ago, a similar conversation was occurring around traditional, old wiretapping, when we had home phones in houses. And so that's why we've actually launched the National Technical Onboarding Program, which ensures that any new technology that is introduced into our organization is centrally coordinated. It's vetted through legal services. It's vetted through our privacy team. And of course, we're working in collaboration now. And there's lessons learned around this with the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Government of Canada to ensure that we do privacy impact assessments, that we find that proper balance. Because, our mandate is public security. It's national security. It's ensuring that all Canadians live in a free, safe society. And so as technology is emerging, criminals and organized crime in particular are taking advantage of this. And so, we have to find that appropriate balance. And, if I look in the last 5.5 years, and I recognize, and I want to be clear, that over the last 5.5 years, we've sought judicial authorization on 32 occasions, and we targeted 49 devices. And so that demonstrates the capacity in the sense of, this is a significant amount of resources that are applied when we seek this judicial authorization and we do the lawful intercept, but there's a lot of actually programming and work behind the scenes. And so we find that balance internally. We don't necessarily also have all of the resources to do this for every single case. And that's why we do triage. It has to meet a certain threshold, and it must be of nature of national security and, or as I alluded to, significant criminal investigations. And I think when you see the breakdown, we focused on terrorism, homicide investigations, significant global drug investigations, cyber investigations, and then 7 others, which include, kidnapping as well as significant breach of trust related to, within our own police organization. And so that centralization, and of course, it's in a unique, it's not tied to federal policing, it's not tied to contract policing, it's tied to specialized policing, which is an independent division within the RCMP that reviews, monitors, and actually engages our investigative clients. And so it's not the investigator saying we're doing this. There's actually a separate process they go through. And I think that we're finding that balance, there's work to be done. And clearly, we're committed to working with the Privacy Commissioner, finalizing the privacy impact assessment. We're very much committed to, in the right setting of sharing that with the FE Committee, as well as in advancing other summaries of the work that we've done.
Sorry to interrupt. My apologies. I just want to make sure we hit our time here. And I do appreciate, again, that information. Just so our audience knows, when I was talking about the instances of use, and you did say 32 investigations targeting 49 devices, Originally, what had been submitted was that it was used 10 times between 2018 and 2022, and that's sort of the genesis of why I asked you. On the point of the privacy commissioners, and again, for our audience's benefit, both the current and previous privacy commissioner raised that issue that you point to, the idea that they had not been consulted. They found out about this through the media. When you say that you have you are committed, or the force is committed to privacy impact assessments, can you be specific? Does that mean that in each of these instances you will conduct one of those? Like, is that going to be a hard and fast thing, or is that a little bit more nebulous?
Well, what we'll do is we'll do a program assessment. So, the use of audits is a program. And so, our approach is that we would do one privacy impact assessment for the use of this specific technology. As we bring other technology on board, as I alluded, we've just significantly invested in the National Technical Onboarding Program, so NTOP, which will review all technology, all investigative techniques using technology coming within our organization. For each of those programs, we will do a separate privacy impact assessment, and we'll work not only just internally, but we'll work with external partners such as the Privacy Commissioner for guidance and of course advance those privacy pieces. I think it's extremely important. We recognize that there's legislative gaps. We want to mitigate those risks. We want to ensure that we create solid criminal investigations that meet the rigor of our judicial system, and that's our focus. And again, we do recognize that as the pace of technology is so fast that we're having a challenge as a law enforcement agency to keep up. We're working extremely hard to meet our mandate of public safety, but there's work to be done around the rigor, the capacity, and of course finding that true balance of the privacy of Canadians and ensuring that we keep our country safe and resilient.
Okay, on that note, Deputy Commissioner Larkin, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for the opportunity. All the best.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.